Understanding conflicts of interest, a comprehensive overview. My name is Phil Olchese. I'm the COI program manager here at USF. And this is the overview for today's session. We will define some terms related to conflicts of interest in research, go over some responsibilities of the COI program. We'll also look into some COI policies, management of COIs, and then as mentioned, we'll do some case studies. And then finally, I'll take you into ARC and do a live demo on how to disclose. So let's get this part out the way, kind of, the boring part, but we need these terms. They're very important. So a conflict of interest, a COI, is a situation in which one's financial or personal considerations either do or have the potential to compromise or bias one's professional judgment or objectivity. An investigator can be anybody who is responsible for the design, conduct, or reporting for a USF research project. Now, what is a USF research project? Well, any systematic investigation, including research development, evaluation, testing, designed to develop or contribute to the generalized knowledge, whether or not it's made available to the general public, involving a USF employee or a student or other person where USF is responsible for the oversight or the administration of this activity. And lastly, a USF employee. Well, that's any individual that is coded in one of the position types in our new software system, Oracle, which is the information management system used by HR. So if it's a faculty, an administration, a staff, or temporary member, and is coded and is getting paid by USF, that is a USF employee. Individual COI. Most common, we see these as intellectual property. So IP, these may be patents, copyrights, trademarks. We also see a lot of consulting or advisory relationships. We see a lot of ownership interest. Oftentimes, this is in stock ownership. And any positions on the governing board or an entity that's related to the research. There's another one that I did not put on here, but I see it very often. It's employment of a related person or nepotism. So that is also a COI. Anybody who's related to somebody conducting research needs to disclose as well. Now, there are differences between individual and institutional COIs. Going into the institutional COIs, we're talking royalties from the sales or licensing of an investigational product that is related to the research being conducted. Or if USF has an equity interest in the company that's related to this research. Or if the university has received a major gift from an entity related to the research. A major gift is defined as a donation of $1 million or greater. Significant financial interest, also known as SFIs. So I just covered these. These are, once again, IPs, intellectual property, consulting relationships, ownership, or positions on the governing board. And we really just want to put this out there that it's okay to have a COI. We want our faculty members to have research-related conflicts of interest. Why? Well, a lot of times conflicts result from innovation of new technologies or drugs, and these may lead to new intellectual property. Conflicts may also arise from interactions with industries, and they may lead to improved therapies down the road. The key is to identify and manage these conflicts. So how do we disclose this? How do we submit a project-specific disclosure? Well, any investigator with a SFI related to a USF research project, no matter the funding source, needs to submit a disclosure. This is called a project-specific disclosure, a PSD. We also call this an ECOI, an electronic conflict of interest. And they need to disclose this as soon as they learn that the project will be funded and prior to actually engaging in the related research. We disclose this in ARC. The link is here. And as mentioned earlier, I will also jump into ARC later for a live demo. Responsibilities of the COI program. Well, we need to ensure that the integrity of the research is maintained. Of course, we also want to preserve the public's trust in USF. And we need to identify and review the manage the research-related individual and institutional COIs as mentioned. So yeah, we need to ensure integrity of the research is maintained during all phases of the research. That basically means during the design, the conduct, and the reporting of this research. And we also provide guidance and support the university's community regarding COI policies, processes, and procedures. So the scope of the COI program and its policies, procedures, and regulations apply to all USF investigators who conduct the research, whether involving human subjects, animals, IACUC, or basic sciences. The COI program is conducted of the COI program manager and the staff. We have a COI committee with 15 current members. They're comprised of various backgrounds. We have a chair and a co-chair. And this committee meets every fourth Tuesday of the month. I present all management plans that were created and that require committee review. And they're tasked with reviewing these disclosures and develop the management plan to ensure the integrity of the research. Federal regulations and policies. So there's two USF policies that we always want to keep in mind. These are policies 309 and 317. Once again, one is covering individual conflict of interest and one is covering the institutional conflicts of interest. There's also federal guidelines that we abide by, NSF proposals, award policies, and procedural guides, also known as the PAPPG. And ultimately, the key elements of these policies are to cover individual financial conflicts of interest, disclose anything that's required for actual financial interest, disclose prior to the proposal submission deadline and annually, disclose the specific thresholds for what is considered an SFI. There's some training requirements, public accessibility, and retrospective review for non-compliance in the PHS federal guidelines. So USF COI policy 309, this is the individual policy. It essentially requires investigators to disclose whether they or their immediate family have an SFI or related relationship to a USF research project. Once again, an SFI is defined as the remuneration, and that's $5,000 or more. That's our threshold. Equity interest, that may be equity in a privately held company or publicly held company. Intellectual property, royalties, and once again, positions as a director, an officer, or a partner in the related entity. And our individual COIs, when you need to disclose. Most investigators now disclose interest regularly, usually annually, regardless of their project activities. However, USF policy requires disclosure for non-federally funded projects prior to the initiation of the project and within 30 days of discovering or acquiring a new interest, and as mentioned earlier, annually during the project. And for federally funded projects, before the funding proposal is submitted, it needs to be updated at the time of notice of the award and annually during the project. USF policy 317, this is the institutional policy. This is applicable to all types of research, human subjects, animals, basic sciences. The ICOIs arise in two ways, through interest of covered officials or the financial interest of the university. Covered officials, the interest may include the stock or ownership, the remuneration from an entity related to the research, or the intellectual property related to the research. And for the financial interests of the universities are royalties of $100,000 or more, any equity in a non-publicly traded company sponsoring human subject research, or that manufactures drug devices being investigated. And as mentioned before, the receipt of a major gift from an entity that is related to the research. So how do we manage these conflicts of interest? Well, we have inherent controls. We may blind the investigators to the treatment groups. Non-interested co-investigators conducting the research and or data analysis may be implemented. External or non-interested lab involvement in sample and or data analysis can implement objective endpoints. Early stage pilot research that requires additional studies. There is a rebuttal presumption that interested investigators and or institutions should not conduct human subject research. The presumption can be overcome if the COI committee determines the circumstances are compelling. So more controls, public disclosure in the presentations and publications. It's usually always a given. Or disclosing to the human subjects through the informed consent document. That's only applicable if there are human subjects on the study. A safe harbor for the students. Or notifications to the research personnel on the study. We may also limit the role for the interested investigator, such as not allowing them to obtain informed consent or be able to recruit. External IB review that may be applicable for institutional conflicts. Of course, monitoring of the research by an independent reviewer is oftentimes something we can implement. And lastly, something I've never seen or fortunately have to do is to completely reduce or eliminate the significant financial interest. So far, we've had great luck with always managing or mitigating a conflict that was disclosed to us. So jumping into a case study, Dr. Jones would like to be the PI for a multi-center clinical trial sponsored by XYZ Pharmaceuticals. He plans to enroll 15 to 20 patients at USF out of the 1,500 that will enroll nationwide. Over the course of the past 12 months, XYZ Pharma has given Dr. Jones $20,000 in honoraria for speaking about his products. Dr. Jones expects to receive the same amount over the next 12 months. So yeah, we definitely can identify a significant financial interest, which is that Dr. Jones receives over the threshold of $5,000 remunerations from the company that he is the study PI on. So he will need to disclose this to USF, and we will implement a management plan to mitigate this conflict of interest. Case study 2. BikeSafe is a small, non-publicly traded company seeking to develop a new product line that includes additional embedded technologies. Dr. Linter developed a bicycle technology to help bicyclists be warned of potential dangers. With the assistance of the USF TTO office, Dr. Linter has obtained a patent on his technology. BikeSafe proposes to license the technology and also to sponsor a study testing the technology at the university with Dr. Linter as the inventor, as an investigator on the project. USF accepts an equity interest in the company as part of the licensing agreement. So we can identify that there is a significant financial interest. That is, that the patent is related to the study and needs to be disclosed to the COI office. You can implement a management plan, and the patent can be conducted and research can be done. Last case study. Dr. Oliva developed a novel material to be used in prescription eyeglasses and owns 5% of the non-publicly traded company that is commercializing the product. The patent is assigned to USF, and Dr. Oliva's company licensed the technology from USF and has not yet made royalty or milestone payments to USF. Dr. Oliva is now applying for an NIH grant that utilizes his patented technology in a non-human subject research study. So we can identify a significant financial interest, which in this case is the ownership interest in an entity that is related to the research. I will now take you into ARC and present a live demo on how to disclose. Okay, so this is the home page. I have a lot more functions, so disregard these. Usually when the PI or investigator logs into ARC, they'll just see the study staff under the role. This is our state function, very important. It indicates what state our disclosure is in. And in this left tab section, we have a lot of buttons and functionality, and it is a little overwhelming at first, but we need to make sure we disclose properly. So if we're dealing with any animal subjects or IACUC, we will indicate the new IACUC study button. But for the sake of this demo, we're going to disclose a conflict of interest, so a new COI disclosure that involves human subjects. So we'll click on this button here. We will say that this is for non-PHS funded research. Say it's not federally funded. Short title or nickname. This is something that the study staff usually comes up with based on the protocol. So it might not be the protocol title, but it's something that the team knows and remembers to study by. So we'll just say test study pharma. And the title of research proposal or the project, this needs to always match the protocol title. Very important. If it doesn't, there's a lot of confusion down the road, identifying the correct study, linking it to the correct study. So I can't stress this enough. Please always ensure that this title matches the proposal and or protocol. Study, study. So check any of the categories below that apply to the USF system research project outlined. We're going to say that our study involves human subjects and we're dealing with a pharmaceutical company. So it's pretty straightforward. There's some buttons that open other buttons, but you can also save your progress and come back later if you can't continue or finish it at the time being, but we will continue. We'll say USF is our IRB and has the oversight, and we will say that this is a multi-center trial. So since we indicated that this is a USF IRB study and USF IRB has the oversight, we will now have to select the study that it matches up to. So if you're an investigator on a study and now to disclose it, it should populate in this drop-down box. If not, you will have to log into Bull's IRB and create the study first to properly link it. So for the sake of this demo, I will select this study. The study number will also auto-populate once I select it. And now it is linked to this specific study, meaning it's linked to the workspace, meaning if I click on it, it'll open the IRB page, give me the protocol, give me the consent form, give me the study staff information. Everything we need to know will be linked via this this button and via this disclosure. So please explain the purpose of the study in lay terms. A lot of times, they might copy and paste some of the protocol information, and a lot of protocols may be super complicated. So we kind of asked to, just describe the study, not super scientifically, just so we have some understanding of it. So we'll say this study uses a medication sponsored by a company Z. You'll now be able to indicate which role you may have on this study. So you can select any. You may also select other and explain below. We have this cool little text box. So a lot of times maybe this doesn't apply or there's something that isn't mentioned. So we implemented a text box in here. And then the following roles are only applicable to studies involving human subject research. So as mentioned, we are having a USF IRB involved. We are having patients involved in this test study. So we'll say that we want to obtain informed consent, but we may not be able to because that might create a conflict of interest. And let's say we get remuneration from this pharmacy company because we do consulting. Once again, there's lots of options here. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, employment of a related person, we have our ownership interest, our position, our intellectual property, our IPs, and even other COI functions. So if none of these apply, we even have other COI. If you select this, just make sure to inform us of what this other COI may be. But as mentioned, we're going to select consulting. Oh, and this button, lastly, if none of these apply, you can hit this button. If you select one of these and continue, it won't let you move forward. Yeah, because you selected a conflict type, and then you say you don't have a conflict. So it's either one or more of these or this button. So the system is kind of safe-proof, right? You can't move forward with either or. It kind of guides you to ultimately what needs to be disclosed properly. So as mentioned, we want to add that we do consulting. And I do the consulting. I present to a group on a monthly basis on a new medication developed. And the value that was received previously, 12 months, drop-down menu. If it's under the 5K threshold, it won't trigger as a significant financial interest, but you can still indicate it. But let's say we receive 5,000 to 10,000, and let's say we don't know what they're paying us over the next 12 months. We're not sure yet. This is the entity to which you have a COI, so it opens up all these different companies. If it's not in here, I mean, there's 3,882 companies in here. Might be that it's not in here. Oh man, didn't mean to back out. But you'll be able to write this in. So let's say for the sake of this demo, XYZ format is not in here, which I know is not in here because that's made up. But we'll say XYZ format in here. And this was self 5, and this was not ascertainable. Entity relationship to the research. So once again, we have other functions. So if these do not apply, this should always be in other box. Yeah, we're going to say other. And this is a nonprofit entity type. Okay. So once you add all your numbers in, you'll see that it populates here. It kind of breaks down our value, the company name, the entity. We can go ahead and add many more if needed. And if we had checked on the conflict categories, other categories, we would be able to add these in just like I just did for the other category types. Moving into the management controls, as an interested investigator, I select all that apply. So, you'll be able to select what applies to you. Keep in mind that whatever you select may not ultimately be accurate, as we might have to alter these and add more controls, we being the COI committee. So we can just select these 3 and continue. And then the last section here is management controls inherent in the study design. So other primary study endpoints, objective. Yeah, this is based on the protocol. Let's say they're not. Please explain. Not objective. Secondary endpoints objective, not applicable. Who will be blinded? PI will be blinded. Co-investigators. Once again, other. Please list the name of the co-investigators who will be blinded. One, name two. Other, please list the names. So if you selected other, you can list the names in here. The following individuals will conduct the data analysis. Who should conduct the data analysis? A lot of times we'll see that the sponsor may do this. If the co-investigator is selected on here, right, it'll even say in parentheses, please list, so we'll be able to mention their names. Once again, if we selected other, please list the names of the individuals here. If submitting data to a central location for analysis, provide additional details. So basically it's asking, if this is applicable to what entity. So we'll write the entity name in here if that's applicable. Entity name, sponsor. Students, see a lot of times the students are on projects. So if we say yes, another button will come up with a safe harbor person. The safe harbor person is somebody who is assigned to the students. They cannot have a related interest to the study. It's somebody they can approach with any concerns about the research integrity. And if students are involved, a lot of times we need to have actually all the times we need to have a safe harbor person in place. But let's say we're not dealing with students. Will an independent monitor oversee certain aspects of the USF research study? Yes. Monitor, assignment, sponsor. Does the study team include individuals not supervised by the interested investigators who do not have a significant financial interest? Right, so this may be a staff member. If you write yes, list their names. If not, you can hit no, you don't need to give us more information. So yeah, the whole process is very intuitive, right? It walks you through each prompt, each button you check may open another box. And, I think we have gotten to the point of having enough other options to always match each unique situation properly. Will additional independent studies be conducted to confirm the results of the research study? Yes. And lastly, we need to inform this significant financial interest to what individual or what entity. We need to inform the editors of the journals publishing the study. We need to inform the research participants. The sponsor usually wants to know. Say the FDA. Nope, this is not a federally funded study. Never mind. And then this last box, give us any other information, any other elements that we need to know about, right? So we can reduce or eliminate this potential bias. This box is often used if there's been a lot of other boxes checked where this may not apply, these options given. So I really like this 3.2.10 box to kind of give us any other information that has not been properly captured. So yeah, we'll continue. We have to acknowledge and say that we agree to cooperate on the development of appropriate management plan, and we agree to comply, we acknowledge, and that we have or used reasonable diligence in preparing this disclosure, and it's true. And lastly, we will need to select a supervisor that this PSD, this ECY will get routed to, who will then get a final look on it before it's sent forward to the COI office. So yeah, it won't let me finish without doing this. It's a required field. What if my supervisor is not listed? You can always reach out to us, or the ARC team will get the supervisor listed in here. But yeah, this is kind of the basics to submitting an ARC. I want to mention and stress, if you ever have any issues with this before, jumping in this rather complicated disclosure process, feel free to reach out to us. I had a call this morning. We shared screens like this, and I walked them through it. It saves a lot of work on the individual who's disclosing it, but also work on our end at the COI office to not get a faulty disclosure where it's not properly disclosed. So really want to stress that we always welcome walking through and reaching out to us if needed. So yeah, with that, I just want to share my screen one more time for my closing page here with our information on it. And I want to thank everybody for joining the session. I hope it was helpful for you guys.
Thank you, Phil. That was wonderful. I learned a lot of things. Folks that are on the webinar, if you have any questions, I've been told the Q&A section is not working, so would you please put your questions in the chat, or if you want to ask them, please let us know through your audio mic. I had a question, Phil. If they are related to IACUC, the conflict of interest, the COI, I'm assuming, has to be approved before the IACUC protocol is approved. Is that correct?
It depends. I've seen either way. Yeah. Same with human subject studies. It doesn't always match up. So let's say during a animal research study that they've already been doing the research and then the conflict kicks in,
arises
right?
later in the study. Okay,
Correct.
so it could be possible that the conflict was not at the time of when they were federally funded or sent the proposal in, but it developed later in the study.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, that's great to know. Thank you.
Good question.
I had another question. In the normal cycle, if a COI has to go to a board for management plan, and also has to go to an IACUC or IRB, what is the normal cycle, depending on the PI responsibly reporting the requested information back to your committee? What's an average time for the COI approval process?
Yeah, as mentioned, the committee meets once a month. So if we, in a perfect world, disclose it right now, we would be able to get the management plan up and going and be able to present it to the committee by the next committee meeting, which meets every last Tuesday of the month. So we would be meeting the end of September, specifically on the 23rd. So yeah, you know, our turnaround is pretty quick. We communicate with the interested investigator and make sure the management plan that we draft is good, and then run it over to the COI committee, who meets on a monthly basis. So yeah, in a perfect world, we can do it in 2 weeks.
Okay. I had another question, just for discussion's sake. You mentioned the COI also has a common model where the anniversary date model is there, which investigators can obviously disclose if they receive or submit a grant, if it's federally funded, but they also do it, as you indicated, 1 year from the date. Is it 1 year from January, or is it their anniversary date, which is unique for each investigator?
To do what? I missed the first part. I apologize.
The anniversary date where annually they have to submit, is that the a particular date, or is that an anniversary date of their last submission?
Yes. Yeah, it's the anniversary date of the last submission. Once you submit it, it gives you 1 year exactly.
And these are all project specific. So one investigator could have 4 or 5 COIs depending on how many grants they had.
Oh yeah, we have some investigators that have 30 to 40 individual project specific disclosures and 20 to 30 different management plans.
And each of them would have an annual requirement too.
Yes. Yeah, and during this annual requirement, they'll be able to edit, to update it, or just to simply acknowledge, saying, you know, research is still active. We have done this and that. We usually ask them a lot of questions about, you know, enrollment, or any new publications, or if the students are still active. So yeah, during this annual reach out, we capture these questions and give them the opportunity to edit, update it. Sometimes they might close down the study at this point.
And I had another question regarding if the COI is in the system, how long is it approved for? As long as the study is being conducted?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
However long the study is being conducted until it's closed out, and then we get word of that the study is being closed out. At that point, we close out the management plan and the COI as well.
Right. I think there's another question from one of the participants. I see a hand raised. Jamie?
Pardon me, that's me. We have a participant question that says, if you select other, is there a place to explain what the other is?
Oh, yes. Yes. There's a lot of text boxes under the other function where you can write in. I also mentioned kind of that last one, the 3.2.10, where it's kind of like, give us anything else that hasn't been captured here. You can write in, a whole paragraph on there. Hey, this didn't really capture what I want to disclose. Here's my reason why I'm disclosing it. So yes, there's lots of boxes and functions to capture this disclosure properly.
How do you assign the departmental reviewer, or how is that assigned in the system in ARC? Just curious. Those chairs of departments, and if it's a chair that has the conflict, who's the next in the reporting line?
Are you talking about the supervisors at the end?
Yes, correct. That's
yeah. Yeah, so we don't assign them. The disclosure assigns them. And a lot of times it's the chair or department supervisor. And if they would have also a conflict of interest, we would see that and say, can you select somebody else? But it's based on their department, absolutely.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Of course, great questions.
Folks, if we don't have any further questions, or if you think about questions later on, please email out to Phil and his team. The presentations will be uploaded to the chat over here after the presentation has ended. And shortly, a survey will be sent out too in the chat. We'd appreciate if you can give us your feedback about the presentation and about topics in the future. So if we have no further questions, thank you so much. Stay tuned for other research integrity and compliance webinar series, and please advertise them amongst your coworkers and colleagues. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.